let's go ahead and talk about everything you're going to be needing for our first initial barefoot girl, Clara, because we're going to be talking about her best builds, teams, relics, light cones, everything like that in today's video for our girl Clara, because she's still good. And honestly, after looking on Pride One, this kind of reassured my thoughts more on making this video, because I see a lot of scenarios where Clara's like in the top 20 teams used in certain scenarios. Right now, if she's not in those top 20 teams, she's in the bottom 500 teams, because she doesn't work well in scenarios she just is not compatible for, right? It's like, if she doesn't work well in a scenario, she does not work well in a scenario. But if she can work in a scenario, she works super well in that scenario. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about the scenarios and everything like that, and why you should just go ahead and build her if you missed your 50-50 and have her. So let's first quickly go over how Clara actually works. She's a physical destruction type character that follows up. That's the big thing here. She follows up, so that means she's already gotten a lot of indirect buffs, so Topaz will work really well on teams with her. On top of this, I've seen teams with even using Yin Li on the team as well, and the new March 7th can also be very viable for this team. And you might be like, well, why is she good for the teams, YouTube? Because first of all, her talent. Everything's going to be revolving around the talent move. This is her follow-up attack. Basically, every time she is attacked, she'll be reducing some of that damage taken, and then Sparg will be doing a counter on that enemy, and also he'll be placing a mark on them. And this mark from the talent, guys, also plays directly into the skill, because whenever you use a skill, you attack every single enemy, and if the enemy has this mark on them, you'll basically be dealing double damage to these enemies if they have the mark on them, though the mark is removed after you use this skill attack. So having some eidolons for if you pulled some dupes of her or something can work out, because by getting E1, you can actually enable her to not use any of these stacks, which is good for scenarios when enemies don't attack very often, because removing this debuff requires them to hit Clara again. So this will allow you to actually spam her skill attack more and actually get some more damage out. It'll allow you to front load the damage basically, because a lot of her damage is going to be backloaded and off the back of the ultimate move. You get so much damage off the ultimate move, it is absolutely insane, because what the ultimate move is going to be doing, guys, is making the enemies target her more. It's also going to be reducing more damage that she takes and enhancing Svarog's counter damage. This is going to be absolutely massive. This is where you get so much of your damage out of. It'll last for 2 attacks. So basically, if the enemy attacks you twice, you hit them 2 times. Also, her energy cost is fairly low, so it can be pretty easy to get this back up. We'll talk about teams and builds a little bit later in the video, so you're consistently getting this ult up, because this is where a lot of her damage is coming from. Let's now go ahead and talk about her best in slot light cones, because this is where it can get actually pretty juicy at. Because let's say you are summoning for something like, I don't know, a Yun Li light cone, and you pulled it. You're like, oh, I need to get her now for some reason, right? I don't know why you would do that, but maybe you did. Yun Li's light cone gonna be her best in slot. Also, Clara's signature light cone can work really well on her too. Obviously, it's her signature light cone. It works pretty well on her. Let's go into some more free-to-play options though. On the Fall of the Aeon, this is literally the de facto light cone for every single destruction character. If you do not have their signature light cones, this is the default light cone, okay? So you might not necessarily have this on your account ready to use on your Clara because you're using it on someone else. I just want to throw that out there because this can be used. This is a amazing light cone. Please God, pick it up if you haven't already from the Herta shop. Absolutely amazing. But that's really all as far as like free-to-play light cones. If you want another good 4-star light cone, you can use both Under the Blue Sky and a Secret Vow. Either of these light cones can be used. Secret Vow really is going to depend on where her HP is at. If you're running around a team with maybe a shield or not much healing, maybe you get more value out of this if her HP gets kind of low, because then you'll be able to proc off the full damage boost that's able to provide for you. If not, then you just get the initial damage bonus. And then obviously Under the Blue Sky just gives you a flat out attack increase, and then whenever you kill an enemy, it gives you a crit rate increase as well. So it really just depends on how many enemies you're killing, how many side adds are there, like the really small ones that you can kill really fast. And this could come in clutch for you in those situations, especially like if you're running her with a pure fiction team or something like that. This could be really beneficial for you as well. But that's really all I have to say about light cones, guys. There's honestly not that many destruction light cones you can use, or there's one light cone that stands above the rest as far as free to play goes, and that is used for literally everyone. But while that's used for everyone, the sets we're going to talk about now, nice transition there, you see, is not going to be as widely used on a lot of characters. But before we hop into what those relic sets are, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our channel's in a decline. It's in so bad of a decline, I almost made a High School Musical reference at the beginning of this video. But I didn't, to save you guys from the cringe. So if you appreciate that, then please hit that subscribe button. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop into the best relic set that you can run. Then we'll talk about stats and then teams and everything like that after. So the best in slot relic set for her, guys, is going to be one that's not very fun to farm. It's going to be Champion of the Streetwise Boxing. Yes, if you played this game when the game first came out, then you might have this set. But if not, and you're looking for her best set, you're going to have to farm this along with Thief of Shooting Meteor, when, god damn, there are better sets than this Thief of Shooting Meteor now, okay? So yeah, you might be stuck between a rock and a hard place, but the reason why this is good, guys, it gives you a physical damage bonus. It gives you a pretty fat attack bonus as well, so this is overall just going to be the best. Second best in slot, in my opinion, guys, is going to be 2-piece Champion, 2-piece of the follow-up set. 4-piece follow-up set on her really doesn't work too well because she only hits one time. Even if it is a blast attack, you'll only be getting 3 stacks up at a time with a 4-piece follow-up set, so really don't recommend that here. I always recommend a 2-piece follow-up set just because of how big of the follow-up attack damage bonus it gives you. This is definitely recommended to run a 2-piece here. You can run this with a 2-piece of a Champion of the Streetwise Boxing. You could get silly goofy, run it with any of the attack sets, maybe. Like, it's obviously not going to be as good as this 2 and 2-piece, but it can work there as well. What I personally run on mine, just because I am not farming Champion of the Streetwise Boxing, I'm running mine on 2-piece Ash Blaze and 2-piece of the HP set just to make sure that she survives a bit longer. This is obviously when I used her before I had Adventurine. I didn't have many shielders on the account to go with her, so I was needing the increased HP. Now with him here, I really don't need this 2-piece set too much, but that's another viable set you can run. Also, I guess another set you could run is 4-piece Longevious Disciple. The reason why I would recommend this set is because you're farming this along with a speed set. If you're running her on a team with a bunch of supports, a lot of the supports are going to want that speed set anyways, so running this on her is not a bad option, especially because she's the main one getting targeted, so you're getting that increased HP. On top of that, you're getting a crit rate increase as well, so this means you have to feed less of your substats into crit rate because you can practically have a 100% uptime of a 16% crit rate buff as long as she is being hit, mind you. But overall, yes, those are the sets that I recommend. Let's go ahead and talk about the planar sets now, which the best in slot planar set's actually the new planar set they added. Whoop-de-doo, I'm glad we get to do some new farming on the new set. And the reason I mention this set, guys, is because it is so good for her. It gives a 25% follow-up attack damage bonus. On top of that, it gives a 25% crit damage bonus. So if you're running this with a 4-piece Longevious, right, then you're automatically getting 25% crit damage, and then you're also getting 16% extra crit rate, which is basically a 1-to-2 ratio, which is the kind of the golden ratio. So you're getting a free 2-to-1 ratio added into your whole kit without even getting substats altogether, right? So you're already sitting in a decent place, and then you can start building from there. But if you don't want to run this set, and maybe you want to run something else, Inert Salsado also works pretty well. Why? Because it gives you crit rate. Crit rate's going to be super beneficial for her because she's not giving herself any crit rate, so you're probably going to have to run like a crit rate body and then focus a lot of your substats into crit damage. That's what I would probably recommend, but we'll talk more about that when we get into the actual stats a little bit later in the video. And then also Salsado is going to be increasing her follow-up damage as well, which is super nice. And then finally, as a last-ditch effort, you can run Space Sealing Station. Now the one downside with this is that you need 120 speed, which you want to run her slow. You want her to be slow, okay? And the reason that is because her ult only lasts for 2 turns. So if you're having her fast, that doesn't really bode well with that per se, okay? So with the stats out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about those stats now. So first of all, guys, for the main stats, on the body piece, guys, you're going to be wanting to run either crit rate or crit damage, though I recommend crit rate more. On the feet, you're going to be wanting to run attack percentage. Don't run any speed. Goddamn, just chill with the speed. You do not need it. On the rope, you're going to be wanting to run attack percentage or ERR. I'll get into that in a second. Planar sphere is going to be either physical damage or attack percentage, preferably physical damage. Now, the reason why I did recommend an alternative of an ERR sphere, if you're not running her on a team with either Ting Yun or Hua Hua on the team, then she might need a little bit of extra energy to pop her ult off more often. Personally, I run mine on ERR. The damage does drop off significantly if you're not using her in the correct teams, especially with someone like a Topaz. If you're not running her with sufficient buffers, then you might just want to forego this and just give her the attack percent rope just so she's able to feed more damage out. That's what I would recommend. It really depends on how your team is built and how many buffs you're actually able to provide to her. If you're running her on a team as like a sub DPS and you have like a lot of singular buffers like a Sparkle or a Brawny and you're not really putting the main focus on her, then maybe I would run attack percentage on here, right? Not to say Sparkle's not good, because I do think Sparkle's one of her better matchups to use on a team. We're going to get into the teams after the stats though, but let's go ahead and talk about the substats and recommended stats now. So guys, for those substats, you're going to be wanting crit rate, crit damage, attack percentage, and effect res. Now guys, as far as those recommended stats go, obviously guys, on the crit rate, you're wanting bare minimum 60% here. On the crit damage, bare minimum 120 here. On the attack, probably around 3200. And on the effect res, it's going to depend on the team you have. I would try to get around 30% if you can. She does give herself some effect res within her kit, but this will help her out to not get CC'd. If she's CC'd, she is useless. So you don't want her to be CC'd. Now, with all of those relics and stuff out of the way, I kind of want to talk to you guys about what her best teammates are, because she can be ran on a plethora of teams. First of all, Ting Yun Hua Hua, like I mentioned before, they are like a match made in heaven for her. First of all, Hua Hua just gives energy for the whole team, helps her supercharge her all back up. Ting Yun is going to be super useful for her. Clara is slow. That means Ting Yun's buffs last a bit longer on Clara, which just kind of makes it like a match made in heaven for Clara. On top of this, you're able to supercharge Clara's ultimate back up, which means you're getting the enhanced counters more often. Other options here though, guys, obviously one of the most notable ones, Topaz. Topaz is an absolute killer for follow-up teams, right? Especially if you have a E1S1, if you know what I'm saying. I might be a little bit unrelatable on that one, but Topaz base form still will work really well on her because she does increase that follow-up attack damage that your allies are able to provide. On top of this, Topaz has single target attacks, which allow you to focus down targets more often. Now, I mentioned before, Robin and also Sparkle. Let's talk about Robin first. Robin gives a crit damage buff to her. On top of this, she's giving attack percent buff to her as well, which is super huge. But why Sparkle? You want your Clara to be slow, right? The big thing with Sparkle, guys, is that her crit damage buff actually carries over until the next turn. So with Clara being so slow, you can actually meticulously play this like, okay, let's bring Clara back up to the front now. Okay, Clara does her attack. Now Clara uses her ult. Clara is so fucking slow now that it's going to take 10 years for her to get back to the front anyways. So you just have this crit damage buff for a while. Then you can swap in using Sparkle on maybe a main DPS. Oh, pull this DPS to the front now, attack with him. And then you swap Sparkle, brings Clara back to the front when it gets closer to her turn. It's just a rinse and repeat cycle with Miss Sparkle. So these are all very good options to use. Now you want to know, what scenarios does she work well in? You want to run her in scenarios where you can guarantee attack. And what I mean by this is some of the enemies in the game, like the little new guy that pours his drinks out, he doesn't actually attack you. So she's going to be dog shit in those scenarios. You want her in scenarios where the enemy attacks frequently, or you have a lot of ads on the field that are going to just keep constantly attacking you, right? These are the main two scenarios that you want her, right? If you do not have her in these scenarios, she does not work well. She does not get any damage out for you. I tried using her on Mach 12. The first side of Mach 12, when you're facing the guy that pours the shit, oh, it's god-awful. But whenever you get to Argentia, it's fine. So, I mean, that's the duality you have here, right? Realistically, with Clara, the big downside here is you really want, like, a main DPS to run alongside her that can really target enemies and kill them. And she's just kind of there to clean up the damage, right? She kind of takes hits for you and then provides a substantial amount of damage outwards toward those enemies. So then your main DPS maybe have an easier time of killing. I like Clara a lot. I haven't really used her too much up until this patch when I missed my Yin Li. Anyways, gamers, if you miss Yin Li like I miss Yin Li, then please like this video and subscribe. That would be much appreciated. Anyways, gamers, that's gonna do it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. See you later.